Good evening. It's great to see you all here this evening. Very thankful for another opportunity. Is this on? You all hear me? Oh, okay, awesome. It's great to see you all here this evening. Very thankful for another opportunity to be able to be here this evening. Sad to say that next Sunday will be our last Sunday here. We are very sad to leave, but we are extremely grateful to be here and to have spent the time here with you all, and excited to be back here this time next year. I ask that you will all continue to keep my grandfather in your prayers. We just got a text maybe an hour ago that he had to go back to the hospital, and that's all the information that we have, and so I'll let you know, and just continue to be praying for him. So as you can see, the title of my lesson this evening is God Chooses the Unlikely. Now I want you to remember, back in middle school or high school when you were in PE or physical education, and your coach told you that you were the captain and you needed to pick your teams. And hopefully you were the one choosing them, or maybe you were hoping that you were getting picked, right? Or at least hopefully you weren't picked last, right? And so this evening, you as the audience are going to be a captain. And the question is who are you going to pick on your team? Now I see on your sheet that you have five people to select. And each one has has two options. So you pick one of the two options that are there. This is just something that, just to get us started, a little fun activity we can do. So, your first option is The Rock or Bruce Willis. You circle one of those options on your sheet. You only get one, don't pick both. The second option is Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali. The third option is Tom Cruise or Sylvester Stallone. The fourth one is King Nebuchadnezzar or King Saul. And the last one is King David or Samson. Now I want you to remember who you picked and why you picked those people. And we'll come back later in the lesson and talk about that. Like I said, this evening, the title of my lesson is God Chooses the Unlikely. We need to understand that we see appearance, but God sees the heart. So we're going to observe the story of David being anointed as king. So we're going to give a quick backstory to it. So if you flip over your Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 8. 1 Samuel chapter 8, and we'll start in verse 1 there. 1 Samuel chapter 8, and we'll start in verse 1. It says, "When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges over Israel. His firstborn son was named Joel, and his second was Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. However, his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned towards dishonest profit, took bribes, and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and went to Samuel at Ramah. And they said to him, 'Look, you are an old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Therefore, appoint a king to judge us, the same as for all the other nations have.' And when they had said this, 'Give us a king to judge us,' Samuel considered their demand wrong. So he prayed to the Lord, but the Lord said to him, 'Listen to the people and everything they say to you. They have not rejected you, they have rejected me as their king. They are doing the same thing to you that they have done to me since the day I brought them out of Egypt until this day, abandoning me and worshiping other gods. Listen to them, but solemnly warn them and tell them about the customary rights of the king who will reign over them.'" So even prior to this happening, you got to remember in Judges chapter 21 and verse 25, where it says, "There was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes." But the people see other nations. They see other nations that have a king, and they say, "We want exactly what they want. We want a king." Where was Israel's physical king? All the other nations around them had one. Where was theirs? They didn't comprehend that Israel was to be set apart, different than the other nations. But they wanted to be just like the other nations. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever compared yourself to someone else? Have you ever told yourself that you wished you had their lifestyle or their way of living or their cars or their jobs, and you just start getting jealous and coveting the things that they have, and you start wanting the things that they have? You forget about the things that you have and focus on the things that you don't have. The person that you're comparing yourself to could be the most terrible person that you have ever met. May have had a terrible heart, but that doesn't matter. You want their life. Or even worse, maybe you're telling yourself and telling God that your life should have been better than theirs because you're a Christian, and because you're a Christian, because you obey, and because you follow God, I should have a better lifestyle than that other person. Israel is focusing on the physical aspects of the other nations, the physical kings that they have, and they forget about the one king that they already had, the ruler that they already had, which was God. You would think, though, that this new generation of Israelites would have heard about the things that God has done for the past generations, right? He freed them from captivity. He was able to free them from Egypt. And then he parted the Red Sea and allowed them to cross on dry land. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? And then you see that he led them with a cloud of fire and a cloud by day, and that they were giving water in places that had no water. They were given food in places that didn't have any food. But it wasn't enough for Israel. And then you would hear that they were walking around Jericho, and they defeated Jericho by just walking around the wall 7 times. They didn't need weapons. They didn't need anything else. They just needed to trust in God, and God would take care of them. But that wasn't enough for Israel. God tells Samuel to grant them what they want. And I heard this in a Bible class one time, that sometimes God gives you exactly what you want as a punishment. Remember as a kid, especially me, but my mom's not here to vouch for me, so it's all right. I don't need her. So, remember as a kid how stubborn you were, right? And how stubborn you are. And your parents would say, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. Or that really doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? And you say, I don't really care. I want to do it. I want to do it my way, right? And then you do it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, Mom, you were right. That was stupid, right? I've done that plenty of times. But God tells the Israelites, don't do this. I'm warning you, don't do this. The king is going to take and take and take. I'm warning you, don't do this. And Israel says, I don't care what you're saying, God. You see all the other nations, they have a king. We want the king. It really doesn't matter what you're saying right now. God says, okay, I'll give you a king. So God tells the Israelites through Samuel, this is what it's going to be like. He's going to take. And God says, they haven't rejected you, Samuel. They have rejected me as their king. We have to ask ourselves, when we want something, when we have the drive to obtain something that's just out of our reach, is God ever in that picture that, hey, God, I really need this, or I really want this, God? Or is it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to obtain it, I'm going to get it any way possible without anybody telling me I can't? We flip over to 1 Samuel chapter 9. 1 Samuel chapter 9, starting in verse 1. It says, there was a prominent man of Benjamin named Kish, son of Abiel, son of Zeror, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, son of a Benjaminite. He had a son named Saul, an impressive young man. There was no one more impressive among the Israelites than he. He stood a head taller than anyone else. So here is the selection of Israel's new king. And this guy's good looking, right? He's tall, he's handsome, and he looks like a king. No one else more handsome or no one else like Saul. But how does Israel react to this choosing? We flip over to chapter 10. Chapter 10, starting in verse 17. Chapter 10, starting in verse 17. Samuel summoned the people to the Lord at Mizpah and said to the Israelites, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel out of Egypt, and I rescued you from the power of the Egyptians and all the kingdoms that were oppressing you. But today you have rejected your God, who saves you from all your troubles and afflictions. You said to him, 'You must set a king over us. Now therefore present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans.' Samuel had all the tribes of Israel come forward, and the tribe of Benjamin was selected. Then he had the tribe of Benjamin come forward by its clans, and the Merari clan was selected. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was selected, but when they searched for him, they could not find him. Then again inquired of the Lord, 'Has the man come here yet?' And the Lord replied, 'There he is, hidden among the supplies.' And they ran and got him from there. And when he stood among the people, he stood a head taller than anyone else. And Samuel said to all the people, 'Do you see the one the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among the entire population.' And all the people shouted, 'Long live the king.'" I find it funny. A man that's handpicked to rule over Israel is hiding behind luggage. There's a running theme in 1 Samuel that Saul was a coward. And he shows it a lot. Hiding behind luggage, blaming other people for his wrongdoings. I mean, the list can go on. But he looked like a king. He had the appearance of a king. Samuel was very passively pronouncing Saul as king, basically saying, "You rejected God, so here's your king. Here's the king that you wanted." And one of my instructors did this, and I thought this was pretty cool. Just imagine Samuel sitting here, all you Israelites are here, and saying, "Here is your new king, Saul, from the tribe of Benjamin." And the camera pans, and they're searching for Saul. They can't find Saul. And then they say, "Saul, where are you?" And you see his eyes poke up behind the luggage. Oh, there he is. Israel, this is your new king. This is who you wanted to protect you, to serve you, and to make sure that you were led by someone physical. This is what happens when you reject God. 1 Samuel chapter 15, over a couple of chapters, 1 Samuel chapter 15, and starting in verse 14. It says, Samuel replied, "Then what is this, the sound of sheep and goats and cattle I hear?" And Saul answered, "The troops brought them from the Amalekites and spread the best sheep and goats and cattle in order to offer a sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we destroyed." "Stop," exclaimed Samuel. "Let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." "Tell me," he replied. Samuel continued, "Although you once considered yourself unimportant, have you not become the leader of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you the king over Israel, and then sent you on a mission and said, 'Go and completely destroy the sinful Amalekites. Fight against them until you have annihilated them all.' So why didn't you obey the Lord? Why did you rush on the plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight?" "But I did obey the Lord," Saul answered. "I went on missions that the Lord gave me. I brought back King Agag, of Amalek, and I completely destroyed the Amalekites. The troop took sheep and goats and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was set apart for destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal. Then Samuel said, does the Lord take pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? Look, to obey is better than sacrifice. To pay attention is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and defiance is like wickedness and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Here is your king, Israel. Here is what happens when you choose based off of appearance. Saul was commanded to defeat the Amalekites, to utterly destroy the Amalekites. But what did he do? He spared the king, and he spared a few goats and sheep and everything. And then he said, oh, the troops spared the stuff. I brought back King Agag so that we can rub it in his face. We won. Oh, is that what God told you to do? And Samuel says, did you obey the Lord? Did you utterly destroy? Yeah, I did. Then what is that sound of sheep and cattle that I hear? You didn't listen. You didn't obey. This is what happens when God warns you, do not do this. He's going to take. He's going to blame, and you're not going to get anything from this physical king that said, I don't care. We want someone else to lead. They put God second. When God commands his leaders to utterly destroy a nation, it doesn't mean spare anyone. It means destroy. When things are under the ban, that means the things that God has chosen for destruction or not. Amalekites were chosen to be part of the things that were devoted to the destruction. And Saul completely disobeyed God, and God regrets choosing Saul as king. And now, God has to go find a new king, a king after his own heart. So we flip over. Oh, excuse me, not yet. Sorry. Israel forgot about God, and they wanted something physical. Something physical to lead them, to fight for them. Do we sometimes become upset or angry or irritated with God that we need something physical to comfort us, physical to give us strength, something to give us peace that is physical, because God's not enough to give that to us? Looking at the appearance of things can be dangerous for a Christian, especially because they can often turn into things that we put before God. Israel said they wanted a king instead of God. They said they wanted someone physical who would lead them in battles instead of God. They said that they wanted someone who will protect them instead of God. But you know what is funny? It's who gave them all those things, even though they had a king. It was God. So we look at the ideal hero through God's eyes. But we're still humans, right? We still see what we want to see. You think about a beginning of a relationship. What attracted you to your spouse? What attracted you to your boyfriend or your girlfriend? Was it the appearance that caught your eye? Did they seem nice? Did they have a lot of friends? When you got to know them a little bit more, was it still their appearance that drew you in? Has there been a time where you thought that someone was nice and kind, and it turned out that they were not? Was that because you focused on their appearance versus their personality? We come to a situation where God is choosing the king that he wants because he sees the heart. So 1 Samuel chapter 16. 1 Samuel chapter 16, starting in verse 2. It says, Samuel asked, how can I go? Saul will hear about it and kill me. And the Lord answered, take a young cow with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Then invite Jesse to sacrifice, and I will let you know what you are to do. You are to anoint for me the one I indicate to you. And Samuel did what the Lord directed and went to Bethlehem. And when the elders of the town met him, they trembled and asked, do you come in peace? In peace, he replied, I've come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and said, certainly the Lord's anointed one is here before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. Humans do not see what the Lord sees, for humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. Jesse called Adonab and presented him to Samuel. And the Lord hasn't chosen this one either. And Samuel said, then Jesse presented Shammah. But Samuel said, the Lord hasn't chosen him either. After Jesse presented 7 of his sons to him, Samuel told Jesse, the Lord hasn't chosen any of these. Samuel asked him, are these all the sons that you have? There is still the youngest, he answered, but right now he's tending the sheep. And Samuel told Jesse, send for him. We won't sit down to eat until he gets here. So Jesse sent for him, and he had beautiful eyes and a healthy, handsome appearance. So after the disobedience from Saul, they go to look for another king. And Samuel is afraid of what Saul is going to do if he finds out that Samuel is looking for another king. So God assures him that he will be fine and to just go find Jesse, David's father. And Jesse is showing Samuel all these different sons, and Samuel sees Eliab and he says, surely this is the one. This is the one that is our next king. And God says, no. Stop looking at the outward appearance. You see appearance, but I see the heart. And so they continue to show all the sons except David, but they finally are able to look for the one that is a man after God's own heart. So David comes onto the scene, and he is the guy. David is described as ruddy in some translations, which is described as a healthy complexion. He was handsome, he was pleasant to look at, he had beautiful eyes, and he shepherded, who protected his flock. But this was not ideally the person that Israel would choose as their king. Now, I want you to imagine going into a job interview, and you have all this experience. You don't have any education, but you have all this experience. You stayed with this company for about 5 to 10 years. You're looking for something different, something more, but you have the experience in the field that they're looking for. Now, the other person that's coming in for this interview, he's just gotten out of college, and he's wearing a suit and a tie, and he's dressed up and nice. And what were we wearing? Some jeans and a polo shirt. They interview both of us, and the interviewer decides to go with the other guy, not based on experience, but based on how he looked. He looked presentable. I want you to take a look at Saul's resume versus David. Israel has an open position for a new king, and we have 2 candidates, Saul and David. And Saul's cover page, he looks tall and he looks handsome and he looks great. He looks like a king. And on the cover it says son or from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, small tribe, but we'll overlook that, right? You flip over to the back. It says he's going to take. It says he's a coward. It says that he will blame others. And he said that he will not follow God. He will not obey God. They said, okay, all right. So then they look at David's covered page. Yeah, he looks all right. You know, he doesn't really look like a king. He looks all right. And on the cover of it, it says shepherd board. Okay, no way. We're going to go with Saul. We're going to go with Saul because he looks like a king. We're overlooked because we wore jeans and a polo shirt to an interview. We're overlooked because we don't look the part, knowing that the other person is not even qualified to be there. There is a problem nowadays, a problem we even have amongst our brotherhood. You have to ask ourselves, do we judge the appearance of others, even to some of our brothers and sisters, when they come to worship? Maybe some of you will be sitting in the pew and the songs, we're singing songs and at the Lord's Supper, and you're looking at someone and you're saying, why are they wearing that? Do they know where they are? Do they know? Maybe that's just too short. I don't understand why they would wear that to a church service. God wouldn't accept them wearing that. Are they serious? Why are they wearing that? What are we not doing? We're not worshiping. We're not serving our God. Our mind is somewhere else. What about the leaders in our congregation? We ask, why is he even a song leader? He can't even hit the notes. He's not even a great leader for this congregation. He's not qualified to be an elder or deacon. I mean, look at him. That guy is not fit to be a preacher. He doesn't even have an education. What about the guests that are coming to visit? Wow. That is so many tattoos. Did he not have like a turtleneck to cover that up? Maybe some long sleeves to cover up the ones on his sleeves? Does he know that I don't really like that? Wow. They leave the building to smoke outside the building? What? She's pregnant and she's here worshiping with us? And she doesn't have a boyfriend or a husband, but she's here with us? Surely she can't be here with us. We need to kick her out. We need to disfellowship. We see appearance, and God sees heart. It is so dangerous to choose based off appearance. Now, I want you to go back to the people that you chose this evening in the beginning of this lesson. Why did you choose those specific people? I specifically chose on each picture one person that was stronger than the other, in my opinion, at least. One person that was stronger than the other. I purposely did that. So did they look strong to you? Did they seem like the lesser of two evils? Did they seem cool? Like, yeah, I would love to be on a team with that guy. Did they seem nice? Did you happen to know anything about these people before picking them? There is a danger in picking leaders, in picking friends, a potential dating partner, a potential husband or wife, based upon looks. They may seem nice. They may look nice. They may dress nice. They may put off a pleasing persona. But are we only desiring them for the way that they look and not based on who they are? There's a song lyric that says, the real you is not the size of your office. The real you is who you are when no one is watching. 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 7 says that God sees the heart and we see appearance. Who are you when no one is looking? Saul was a people pleaser, but David was pleasing to God. God uses those who may seem unlikely leaders or people to us. But to him, there's more than meets the eye. Let us stop judging based on the outward appearance and start getting to know the heart. So this evening, if you're not a Christian, and maybe you were telling yourself, I'm not worthy enough to be a Christian. I mean, look at me based on this mature Christian over here. They know a lot. I'm never going to get to that level. That can't be me. They don't value me. God doesn't value me, so why should I even do it? Well, let me tell you, God values you as a person. He values your heart. We value you as a fellow brother and sister in Christ. And if you want to be a part of that, then that first step is being baptized, and that water is ready for you. But if you are a Christian, maybe you are struggling. Maybe you're struggling by looking at people and judging their appearance before getting to know that person. Maybe you are struggling physically, and it's causing you to doubt and to fear and to be ugly. And you want to stop that. You want to be more loving. You want to be more encouraging. You want to be more uplifting. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. Uplifting and encouraging. But we can't do that if we're being ugly to each other. So this evening, if you do have a need, please let it be known as we stand and sing.